In the latter half of the book of Numbers, we encounter a most intriguing figure, Balaam, son of Beor. He is not a Hebrew, but a diviner from a nearby kingdom. As we know from our readings, divination is forbidden to God's people. Yet, God ends up using Balaam to proclaim his blessing upon Israel. This Old Testament story should prompt us to ask, what does it mean to hear God's voice, but not love him? In context, the king of the Moabites hires Balaam to curse the Hebrews. After some back and forth, and a very interesting episode involving Balaam, his donkey, and the angel of the Lord, Balaam agrees to perform the divination rites, but will only speak the words that God gives him. Twice he performs the rites, and each time he is only able to bless Israel. Then the Spirit of God, which is to say the Spirit of Yahweh himself, falls upon him. Balaam prophesies a blessing on Israel and a curse on its enemies. The Moabite king is understandably enraged. So this sequence of events raises some important questions that can guide us in our faith. Balaam is a pagan diviner. Why would God choose to speak through him? In divination, the pagans believed erroneously that the diviner could bend the will of the gods through their sacrifice. It seems that Balaam is at least aware of the power of God, and that he could not curse God's people if the Lord chose to bless them. Thus, when Balaam speaks in this limited circumstance, he is an oracle of the Lord to the Moabite king. But is Balaam, for lack of a better word, a good guy in this story? The answer to this is emphatically no. He ends up giving the Moabite women counsel to seduce Hebrew men and entice them into idolatry and unfaithfulness. This brings a deadly plague upon Israel. Evidently, if he cannot turn God's heart away from his people, Balaam will try to turn the people's heart away from God. This wicked manipulation of people in both kingdoms shows us the content of Balaam's heart. It's no surprise that in the New Testament, the Apostle Peter criticizes Balaam as one who loved to make profit from doing wrong. Though he can hear and speak to God, Balaam does not love God. And later on, Balaam dies in battle against Israel. So here are a couple of implications from this story. First, God doesn't want us only to know about him, or just to converse with him. Balaam shows that it's possible to do these things and still oppose God in our hearts. Jesus says, "If you love me, you will keep my commandments." In other words, as we strive to love God with all our heart, mind, soul, and strength, we will also seek to do his will. So in our own lives, how are we hearing God's voice but not obeying him? Second, we should be most encouraged at God's faithful protection of his people. When a powerful and insightful diviner such as Balaam is hired to curse his people, he is unable and can only proclaim God's blessing upon them. Today, much of the world tries to operate in a spiritual no man's land of secularism and neo-paganism. But if you are in Christ, you can trust that God will not change his mind, and that no wicked spiritual force can overturn his blessing. Much like Israel in the wilderness, the church is not protected by her own strength, but by God, who is eternally faithful and steadfast.